students, welcome for today's session. So in today's session we are going to study about writing JavaScript program for creating a digital clock using the Moment.js.
How's it going, guys? My name is Dom, and today I want to show you how to create your own digital clock with Moment.js inside JavaScript. Okay, so for those of you who don't already know, Moment.js is basically a JavaScript library that deals with date and time. Okay, so on the actual website, you can see it's used to parse, validate, manipulate, and display dates and times in JavaScript. Okay, so to actually grab a hold of this library, you can download it directly from here, or you can install it using a package manager. Okay, alternatively, you can even go inside the docs section and use a CDN such as cdnjs.com or JSDeliver. So I've actually done this with this file right here. So inside my HTML, you can see I've actually used a script tag to the Moment.js script on the JSDeliver CDN. Okay, so once this is all done and included, you're good to go. So I've also included a Google font called Contrail 1, which will be used for the actual clock typeface. So it looks like this, and I think it's actually a good choice for the front of a digital clock. Okay, so let's start creating this clock. Okay, so inside the HTML, the first thing to do is to create a container for the actual clock and then add some CSS styles. Okay, so inside the HTML, we can begin by creating a new div down here and give it an ID of something like clock. Okay, now we're also going to put some sample data inside here. For example, 8:23 p.m. So we're going to use this text as a guide when we're actually styling up the clock. Okay, so I'm going to save this and refresh the browser, and we just get that text right there. Okay, so let's use CSS to make it look nice. Okay, so inside the style tag, let's target the ID of clock. All right, inside here, let's set a width of something like 300 px and a height of something like maybe 100 px. All right, let's also add a background color of black and also some border radius of something like 5 px. All right, we can save this and refresh the browser, and we get that result right there. Okay, so this text is now hidden. Let's apply this font to that text and center it vertically and horizontally. Okay, so inside the HTML, let's add a display of flex so we can now center it vertically and horizontally. We can use the align items rule, and we're going to say center, and we'll also use the justify content as center as well, and that will center the text vertically and horizontally. We can add a text color of green. All right, maybe a green yellow, actually green yellow. And for the font family, we're going to use the Contrail 1 font. So Contrail 1 and sans serif as the backup. Now we can save this and refresh the browser, and we get that right there. Let's just make the font size a lot bigger. So we can say font size as something like, I don't know, let's just say 3em. Alright, we can save this and refresh. Okay, so that looks quite good. So the CSS is now done, and the HTML structure. That is all that's required in the HTML, just a simple div tag. So now we're going to use Moment.js to actively get the time every second and then display it inside this this clock div. Okay, so let's go down to the JavaScript, and we're going to add an interval. Okay, so we're going to make an interval that runs every second. So every second we're going to update the time. All right, so let's just say set interval. All right. Inside here, we're going to pass in a function which will run every second. So this function will take no arguments. All right. And it's going to run, as a comma here, it's going to run every 1000 milliseconds, or that also means 1 second. Okay, so let's just say console.log time is being updated just for now. All right, so I can save this and refresh the browser, and we can see in the console we get time is being updated every second that goes by. So we're going to replace this code with the code to actually update the clock. All right, so back inside here, let's just actually first get a reference to the actual clock div. All right, so down here, let's make a new constant, and we'll call this one clock equal to document.getElementById. We're going to pass clock inside there. Okay, so now this clock refers to that element right there. All right, so inside this function, let's use the Moment.js library. Okay, so basically Moment.js has its own its own datetime type, and it's called a moment. Okay, so to create a new moment, you use the moment function just like that. So what we can do is I can say const and then say now is equal to moment. So basically, when you call moment by itself, it generates a moment object for the current time. Okay, so in the actual docs, you can see, let's just go to the get and set, I believe it is. No? Oh, now, sorry. So in the now section, you can see, you can obviously get the current date and time using moment by itself. All right, so once you actually have this moment object, it comes with a bunch of methods. One of those methods is a format. Okay, so let's go down to the display section. We can see here we have a moment.format function or method. All right, so this allows us to convert this moment object into a human readable time. All right, so you can see here we have a few examples. Okay, you can convert this current time to something like that, and it gives you that result right there. All right, so it's also got a bunch of tables and examples. So it's just a reference, right? So it's got all the different letters you can use inside this format function. All right, so let's go back inside the JavaScript, and we're going to call that format function or method. All right, so let's make a new constant, and we'll call this one, let's just say human readable. All right, equal to now dot format. Okay, so we have to pass in a template for the format function. So back inside the documentation, we want the hour and the minute. All right, you know what? We also want the second. Okay, so let's go down here and find the actual hour. There it is. So a capital H gives you the hour of the day, but you know what? I'm going to use the lowercase h because that gives you only 1 to 12. Okay, so using the AM PM time. All right, so let's put a H inside here. Okay, cool. Let's put a colon, which represents that colon right there. All right, and then we need the minutes. Okay, so back inside here, a minute is used by the M keyword. So we can put an M inside there and one more colon, this time for the actual second. All right, so for the second, we'll use the second right there. You know what? Actually, we want to use the double M and the double hour to constantly get the 0 in the front. Okay, so we're going to keep it at 2 digits per unit of time. Let's change this hour to double H and double M, and the second double S. Okay, so if I was to now console.log human readable. All right, if I save this and refresh the browser, we get every second that right there. So we can see it's updating as the time goes on. So just to recap, this string right here is like a template which Moment.js uses to display the current time. Okay, so now if you want the actual AM or PM, you just put an A after the end of that. Alright, so back inside here, let's put an A after the S. Let's save this and refresh the browser. This time, we're getting that right there. I reckon we actually use an uppercase PM. So let's just go back inside here. We see an uppercase A will give us that in uppercase. Okay, so let's put an uppercase A at the end of here. Alright, we're now all done. We can simply then change the text content of the clock to this human readable time. So down here, let's say clock.textContent is equal to human readable. Okay, so now if I save this and refresh, we see we get this time in the actual clock element. But if you notice, it doesn't happen straight away. All right, so what we can do is we can actually extract this function and put it inside a separate function. All right, so let's just make a function below here, and we'll call this one update time. Okay, this will contain all this logic. All right, just like that, and then we can instead pass in update time inside here. So now this interval function is going to call this function every 1 second. Okay, and that function will obviously achieve that update. So this means I can actually put update time and call it directly when the document loads. All right, so now if I save this and refresh the browser, that function gets called straight away, and it now works as expected. Alright, and that's how you can use Moment.js to create your own digital clock inside JavaScript. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.
So welcome back, students. I hope you all have understood how to create a digital clock using Moment.js. In the upcoming sessions, we are going to study how to create an analog clock using Canvas. So we'll continue in the next session. Thank you.